talk to your kid. Don't sit down at the dining room table and say, now we're going to have a talk.
Youth that do gamble are 6 times more likely to develop an addiction as an adult.
You have this certain mentality, never my kid.
They shouldn't feel isolated from making a healthy choice.
For a safe, healthy, and drug-free community.
Watch Step Up to Save Our Children today.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Step Up to Save Our Children. My name is Denise Mayer, and I'm the founder and the director of Step Up Anderson Township. We're a coalition that promotes a safe, healthy, and drug-free community. This podcast is attempting to meet parents where you are, if that's picking your child up from music or sports, or if you're at home doing laundry. This is your opportunity to educate yourselves so that you can talk to your own children with honesty, the right information, and most importantly, authenticity, because children know when you're not being authentic. My guest today is Angie Ferguson. She's the Executive Director of Drug-Free Clubs of America. We are delighted, Angie, to have you today. Let me share your amazing background before we begin. Angie serves as the dedicated Executive Director of Drug-Free Schools of America, DFCA, where she leads a passionate team committed to empowering teens to make healthy, drug-free choices. Angie's journey with DFCA began in 2005 during a heartfelt conversation at a firehouse with her father, Joe, one of DFCA's co-founders, and fellow firefighter, Kyle. They realized that too much focus existed on treatment rather than preventing initial use. That launch sparked Angie's aha moment, setting in motion a 20-plus year career of equipping teens with powerful strategies so that they may stand strong in the face of daunting pressures to use harmful substances. Today, Angie channels her inspiration into the growth, innovation, and validation of DFCA's impact. Substance-based threats to the youth are defeated by a unified system of support through collaborations with leaders in healthcare, education, military, business, and community service. The DFCA team has served over 80,000 student memberships, and their work has been recognized through the FBI Director Community Leadership Award, the United States Attorney Community Outreach Award, as a Jefferson Award finalist, and in contribution to a book titled Not Far From Me, which won the 2019 Schwartz Prize for outstanding work. The Drug-Free America Foundation stated that by promoting health, fostering leadership, and building community connections, DFCA is creating a culture where prevention isn't just a program, it's a movement. With Angie at the helm, DFCA continues its trajectory while staying true to its commitment to build a healthy, capable, and inspired drug-free youth. So, Angie, welcome to this podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. It's exciting to be here, especially hearing all that. I think we're done.
Well, that's true, but we got a lot more to explore. So first of all, I want you to explain, if you can, what Drug-Free Clubs of America, what it really is and how it began, because I think that's fascinating.
Okay, sure. The concept of Drug-Free Clubs of America is very different from other types of prevention initiatives that you may have heard of in the past, or maybe that exist in the current schools wherever you are. The idea was dreamed up by firefighters. So if you think about that mentality about prevention, stopping things from ever happening before it becomes a problem, it was just as you said. It was my dad and a fellow firefighter. They were in the firehouse in North Side in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's the firehouse that I grew up going to visit my dad in. So they were down there and had a run on a 15-year-old boy. And on our website, there's a tab that gives sort of the background of it. So you can hear my dad telling this story firsthand. It's pretty touching. So they lost the 15-year-old boy, unfortunately. And it, of course, was not their first run of that type that day. So they were just incredibly sad and more frustrated than anything at that point, because when you see this day in and day out throughout a whole shift, it becomes this thought process of why aren't we doing more? So that's how they came up with the idea of drug-free clubs. But being firefighters, instead of backgrounds in prevention or social work or anything like that, they just kind of thought of what would be the most appealing for a teenager to actually want to do, as opposed to some of the paper giant type programs that we get that are really heavy with some of the academia, but not necessarily as attractive to the teenagers. So they thought, first and foremost, what is a way that we can attract them to want to stay drug free, identify the drug free teenagers, give them a hand to help them stay drug free, and make them want to stay drug free even when they graduate from high school. So that was the basis of it. And what they came up with was the realization that every day in corporate America, drug testing works for our pilots, for our bus drivers, for our police officers, for whoever it is, for our tradesmen. My husband is a plumber. They have to be drug tested and keep they call it their drug card, keep that up. So drug testing works as a deterrent. However, that's not necessarily the most fun thing. So let's think of a way that makes teenagers want to do this program. So that's when they came up with the incentive side of it, the reward side of it. And then over the next 20 years, they worked alongside our team and built up other areas of the program that bolster that core concept of use drug testing as an out to handle a drug related situation. So a teenager in the moment of choice can say, I can't because I get tested. It's an easy out where they save face. They're not alienating themselves from their friends. But then at the same time, there's all kinds of positive reinforcement and rewards. Like go to the front of the lunch line on Chicken Nugget Day and get your car out of the parking lot 5 minutes early. Go to the local pizzeria or chili place here in Cincinnati and get, buy one, get one free. All of those kinds of things. So positive reinforcement, an actual tool to rely on in the moment of choice. And then we layer in peer-to-peer influences, education, parent support, all these other components. So it's one comprehensive program that is fun for the teenagers. It's something they choose to do and want to do, as opposed to being mandated.
Right. And it's certainly very different than what most of the schools do, which is punitive. Every time somebody gets caught with it. And I mean, I had the vice principal call me over the summer wanting to know how she could get rid of like an entire case of vapes that she had confiscated. So, with every time that happens, of course, they're either suspended or whatever. So this is totally the opposite of that. And I think that makes so much sense because catching them isn't doing a thing. Preventing is really what the answer is.
Very true. But I will say that the catching thing, I think it depends on how you see it. So yes, catching when it's along that sort of line of conversation, that feels more heavy-handed. There's punitive measures associated, and schools have to do that. Imagine if they
Oh,
would
yeah, they do.
identify that somebody is using, and then
They
not have
do.
a policy for what are we going to do. So
Right.
they have to do that. But if you see it from the perspective that this teenager had a conversation in drug-free clubs, had a conversation with their parent, chose to do drug-free clubs, did not pass one of their drug tests, those drug test results in our model do not go to the school. the school gets to focus just on positive reinforcement. So there's a huge hit to the positivity in the school culture. The school culture goes in a radically positive direction right away. But then we have resources for the parents. So when we do identify that somebody has used something, we're finding it when they're experimenting instead of when they have already started to go down that addiction of that pathway of addiction. And then also we're able to sort of jump in, have these conversations, bring them back into this healthy pathway without any stigma associated with it, because coaches aren't finding out, teachers aren't finding out, they haven't blown any opportunities at school. So there is a moment where if somebody does not pass the drug test, it really depends on how you handle it. In a lot of models, they have punishments and responses that may have long-term effects for their transcripts, for whatever their opportunities are. And the drug-free clubs model, it is purely focused on their health, on strengthening their belief set and staying drug-free, hitting any education that maybe they had some misconceptions about things like vaping. Maybe some of them don't realize that it's not healthier than cigarettes, and all of those things that we like to teach them. So there is an opportunity when somebody doesn't pass a test. It's just a matter of which direction you go with it. And Drug-Free Clubs of America takes a very creative approach to really nurture that teenager to believe in staying drug-free as opposed to being punished into it.
And I think that's so important because, like you said, they have to do something. The schools have to have a policy and
Yeah.
whatever. But if they let it stop at just punitive, like, suspension or whatever, there's no opportunity to address that. And often parents, of course, are in denial that their child was even involved in anything. So you miss that opportunity with the clubs. You've got all that opportunity to educate, to influence. You know, Obviously, it's nice to be able to get a discount or buy one get one free at the chili parlor, but the picture is so much bigger than that for the health of the child. So what do you notice? Like, who comes to you or to someone and says, we really think our school needs this? What typically motivates schools, or is it a parent? Like, who comes to you first?
The leads that we get, if we're going to call them, the new people coming to us asking for the program, they are a wide variety of personalities. And I feel like a lot of times it has to do with the area from which they come. So if we have a very strong presence in like the Appalachian, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia area, and those areas where, and don't get me wrong, substance use disorder has penetrated every community, every economic subset, everything. We know this. In those areas, though, they have sustained such a hit generationally that they're sick of it. They're frustrated. They have lost so many loved ones, and so many other people have too. But it feels like those teenagers, when they come to us, they say, we're sick of this happening to our town. This is going to be my town here in not too long, and I want to do something about it. So sometimes it's the teenagers themselves. Sometimes it is an administrator, maybe a principal, an assistant principal. Most often it's a principal or a school counselor, because they see the value in the positive reinforcement model. And it's great public relations, so to speak, for the school, because it's a way to tackle the topic of substance use in a way that isn't doom and gloom and punishing. It's, we are so proud of our drug-free students. Look at how many of our students are volunteering to be members of drug-free clubs by being drug tested. And they have outward facing, maybe a food truck festival or things along those lines where the community can see that. And without it requiring that strength of character for a student to say, I'm drug free and making posters and all that kind of stuff, that's not easy for every type of teenager. But every type of teen and drug-free clubs would be happy to show up and get their free snow cone
Mhm.
or, things like that. And that becomes a visual cue to their peers,
Right.
to the teachers and coaches, and to the community that all of these students are drug free and showing it and proud of it.
I'm proud of it.
So
Yeah.
it really is the first time that you can see the choice to stay drug free. It's hard
Mhm.
to see being drug free. It's easy to see when somebody's using.
Right.
Hard to see being drug.
Exactly. Exactly. So how does the back, I know I'm going back a little bit, but to the drug testing, because you said the teachers never know, the coaches don't know, the administrators don't know. This is strictly within the club. How does that actually happen? The drug testing.
Sure, yeah. We have learned all of the tricks of the trade in our 20 years of doing this. So, first of all, I'll start with the fact that one of our two founders, one is my dad, the other is Kyle Stevens, who you referenced, and he has a drug testing company. So, he knows everything there is to know about drug testing itself. He's the one that helps us really make decisions about best practices and things along those lines. But all of that calls back to the Department of Transportation. They're the ones who sort of guide the governance on drug testing for your pilots, for your bus drivers, things that we mentioned before. So we follow those best practices as closely as possible, making a few tweaks for the school environment because we want it to still be an upbeat, positive day. And we managed to accomplish that, believe it or not. And there's also some sensitivities to being around your friends and your peers and stuff. So, what happens is, let's say you are signing up for drug free clubs. You fill out an application online, it is signed by you and your parent. Then, and in that, it consents for the test, for the photograph, for the release of the results to drug free clubs and to the parent. So the school is not even mentioned in the consent verbiage. So if there were an instance where the school were to get the results, that would be a HIPAA violation. So that's a little bit of assurance to the families and to the students that it's not even in our language that we're permitted to do that. We never will. So that's how you apply for the club. So now let's say applications are closed. We're getting ready to launch the program. Your school comes up with a day that they're going to do their first test day. That is done with a collaboration with a local medical entity, so nobody from the school. Let's say maybe we partner in one of our areas, for example, we partner with Children's Hospital in the Akron area.
Okay.
So Children's Hospital sends a couple nurses to the school on test day. They hang out back maybe in a locker room or in an auditorium somewhere, maybe in a back hallway where there's less traffic. And then each school decides how they call the students down. Some will give them slips of paper that say, hey, report at this time. Other ones will just phone call into the classrooms. It's whatever that school is used to for calling people down, so it doesn't feel awkward. So a student comes down, they check in by typing in some information to the computers, they get their picture taken, they go back and do their drug screen, and that is just one person at a time. It is not observed. They don't even have to walk out of the bathroom holding their sample because that's just awkward. So that stays in the bathroom. So the student comes out, the collector goes in to finish the paperwork. Then they say, awesome, here's your paperwork. It's, evidence that you did your drug test. No results are documented on that paper. So there's no results floating around the school or anything. Then the student makes a goodie bag and they go back to class and they eat all their goodies in front of all their peers. And that is the first cue to the student body that, hey, this person is drug free. And what we've heard from students is peers that used to offer them substances stop offering. They don't even offer anymore because they see them eating the chips. They see them holding the goodie bag from drug free clubs and they know they're in the program. So now they don't even have to say, I can't, I get tested. They don't even get the offer in the first place because their peers know it's a useless effort.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really amazing. Yeah, I think that's amazing, because I think that's one of the biggest problems when someone is approached is what to say. I always say, "Tell them your mother will kill you," but, I'm just obviously, that doesn't work all the time, but, I think that they know that they wouldn't even, and most kids well, this is what I've heard from on the college level that most kids that are great kids that get involved in some of this, it's just a one time, like you have a big exam, maybe take this pill or take this or whatever, or take a hit or whatever. They're not really intending to get super involved in all of this, drug whatever. So this is an easy out. They just say, "Hey, I'd be tested."
Yeah, it is a perfect escape. I think it was very sneaky and very smart the way this strategy was created to just say it's very similar to when I was in high school and my parents would say if somebody offers you cigarettes, just tell them you're allergic.
Hmm.
It's the out without that moral stance. I'm better than you. You're making a bad choice. You're bad. I'm good. All of that goes out the door. It's just, hey, I can't. And since it's voluntary, it does two other things that we didn't recognize immediately, but after doing this for a few years, we learned. Number one, it enables students who are from multi-generational addiction families, or even if it's the first addictive generation, they might have a parent that has a reputation or a sibling that has a reputation. And those reputations are thrust upon these young people. And they kind of get to a place sometimes where they think, well, they just assume I'm going to do it, so I might as well. You know,
Yeah.
when they have this, they become visible in the mindset of being proud of being drug free, being proud of being in this program. So it kind of raises eyebrows where teachers will say, "Oh, that's so awesome. I love seeing you down here. Congratulations. This is so cool. I'm so glad you chose to join." That happens all the time. But then also, there are students. One of the best things about this program is remember before we were talking about when somebody doesn't pass a test? We give them the opportunity to really redeem themselves instead of it being a life sentence that, oh, you're a drug user. It's not. It's that they had that moment and now we identified it and we can turn it around and it's just what they did at that time. But now they're back in drug free clubs. They passed that test. We had a conversation with the parent. There's no harm, no foul at the school. We've treated it as the threat to their health, which is what it actually is.
Sure.
So they can redeem that sense of, okay, I'm proud of myself again. And then also, if they have broken the trust of parents, of coaches, or anything like that, it's hard to say, I promise I'm not using anymore. They don't
Right.
believe them.
No.
No, they don't believe them because they had to lie the first time around, more than likely. But now, through this program, students who have used in the past can say, look, I'm not, and I'm really proud to be around this group of drug free students. And I have that test to rely on when I'm around those friends that I was using with before. Now I can say I can't, I get tested. And those people know that's true. So there's so many groups it applies to.
Yeah. I'm thinking about like the football team and, all of these kind of things and how that influences then other, students that maybe weren't in the club to think, hey, this makes sense. I'm going to do this. When they first started, how do they pick the kids or did the kids how do, like, if you went into a school and you were just talking, say there was an assembly, they hardly ever do that anymore, but something where like, they're going to talk about this and whatever, does the school get involved with picking who the kids are or do they, how does that work?
Yeah. They don't pick the members because it's completely voluntary if who wants to join. But when they're very first creating the program, first remember I said we have to establish a collaboration with a medical entity in the community so that we've got an outside person doing that drug screen itself. Then the next thing that happens is there are student officers, student ambassadors who are who start to lead the initiative.
Okay.
Some schools will have certain students that they will hand select. And especially in the first year, and then maybe by the second year, they open up to everybody to be able to fill out an application. That's usually how it works the first year. That being said, we always steer schools in the direction of being very aware of representing every type of student in the student body when you select your student ambassadors, because this is an opportunity for the athlete to have something in common with the drama student, with the soccer player, with the person who's not involved in anything and is trying to find their passion. It all you have to do is be drug free and you get to participate in the events. So it really is a common ground that any student can be a part of. So we always promote for schools to choose some student ambassadors that represent the student body as a whole. So we're hearing everybody's voices. And then usually after a year or two, they have an application process. Like Notre Dame Academy, for example, in Northern Kentucky, they get hundreds of applications for their students to be ambassadors and have to go through a selection process. So, and that's just one example. There's dozens like that. So it's a very exciting thing when you say, okay, I'm the ambassador. And then here at our home office, this is our 20th anniversary this year. So this year we're
Exciting.
launching, yeah, we're launching a teen advisory board to advise us here at our office. So it'll be the ambassadors at the different schools. We'll open the applications up to them, and then they will meet with us about monthly for just maybe 30, 45 minutes. And we're gonna pass some things off to them to make decisions about content, about designs for stuff. When we're facing choices about things, their voice is going to be very strong at the home office, regardless of where they are. Right now, we've got clubs in Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and California, and we're opening in a few other states. So all of those students will come together and advise us, which is very exciting.
And to think this started in Cincinnati, I just, unfortunately, Cincinnati's been not in a good light the last 2 weeks here with some stuff going on downtown. So, I mean, it's so
Yeah.
exciting that this happened in Cincinnati and that, that you're having such an amazing impact. And I think this is a great thing to bring the kids in as the advisors. I think that that's amazing. And the thing is this culture continues to evolve. What you were dealing with 5 years ago is not what you're dealing with now and not what you're going to be dealing with in the next few years. Every time I look at my emails from different organizations, I'm shocked that they've got some new thing. Now it's this, now it's that, and these poor kids, I mean, they're the victims of money trying to get, big pharma, big pot, whatever it is, they're after them for whatever. But having students, I think that's such a smart idea. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also I feel like the learning curve is extra for us adults when we're trying to not only do those changes happen, and then they happen strong enough that people start to recognize the trend, and then by the time it makes its way to the adults, it's a new trend already. So it evolves as quick as technology does. So having a direct connection to the teenagers to really say, hey, this is what I'm seeing in my school or among my friends or
Right.
whatever it is. Do you guys have you seen this? What do you think we should do or can do? And we're here to really empower that. I want those students to have a very large role in the direction that our program takes because they know better than anyone what's in those schools.
Right. What's working, what won't work. So now, if you're a member of the club at a school, so do they have meetings at the school? Does the club come together like once a month, or how does that work?
It depends on the school. We don't require it as a program. The student ambassadors will get together at whatever cadence the person in charge of it at the school, that's the school coordinator. So let's say you're a school coordinator at the school, you have maybe a dozen student ambassadors, and you'll probably get together once a month or once a quarter, depending on how you do your planning. And we've got step-by-step planning, instructions, prompts, emails, everything all written. Everything is very turnkey. So it's very easy to sort of decide on which cadence you want and then meet. That's the ambassadors. There are some schools who like to do monthly activities. They like to have monthly meetings. And for that, we have a relationship with SAD, with Students Against Destructive Decisions. And they have a fantastic newsletter that they put out every month. And so we provide that for all of our schools. So if a school wants to do monthly meetings, this is content from SAD that is activities, it's scholarship opportunities, it's maybe events going on, highlights of different things, warnings about substances on the rise. So there is information for monthly meetings if they want to do that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
as a program, we don't require it because if we go back to the busy athlete, that athlete needs to have a prevention strategy without needing to lump on more hours onto their schedule. So,
Absolutely. That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that is where some programs really face challenges because it is the events and the activities that make that prevention message get driven home. But not everybody has time in their schedule. So we don't require meetings. Some schools offer the meetings if the members want to do them, but you can certainly be a member of drug-free clubs, have this prevention strategy to rely on in high pressure situations without needing to attend meetings.
And that makes so much sense because, like you said, there's so many things that they have to do. I have a nephew, I mean, a grandson, actually, I have a nephew too, but that is in football at the high school level. And I mean, getting up at 5:30 in the morning to lift and practice, and then he's in all these AP classes. And then after school, they have another practice. And it doesn't leave a lot of extra time. And I know that there are students who are doing things that they should not be doing, and there's no way of determining that. They're not going to go to the coach and say, hey, so and so is stoned in the locker room. They aren't going to do that. So there's really no way. And I think we tried out here where I live at one point to bring up drug testing. I mean, I thought the parents were going to hang themselves. They were like, no, we're not doing that. But this makes so much sense. I mean, I think the thought was, well, the school's going to do it, and then the school's going to know. And then, so nobody's going to, um,
Right.
want to sign up for that or whatever. But this is not that. This is so different. And it
It
makes
is.
so much sense because, we had a family out here that the the son got really, really involved in the vaping of the
Mhm,
nicotine, but it escalated. Of course, it always does, almost to the
mhm.
THC and whatever. They cannot bring that boy back. He is just had so many problems. And the parents say, well, if we only
Right.
had any idea that he was doing this early on, we could have done more but kids are smart. They know how to, hide that stuff, and they know how to make sure that the parents aren't aware. So this just
Yeah.
makes so much
Not
sense.
only that, they're at such a volatile stage. So if we go back to the football players that you were talking about, they have such enormous pressures on them. And not just football. This is also band. This is also debate. This is anybody who, especially anything competitive where they feel like they have to perform. People are watching them. They're looking at their record. They're seeing how it's going. Incredible pressure on. But then if it is one of the sports that tends to get more of the eyes looking at it like football, right? You've got the other students who want to have something in common with them. So maybe they pressure them to try to use because now I've got this in common with them. They're already seen as leaders. Don't you dare mess up and give us a bad reputation type situation. So, that on top of the prospect of injuries, dealing with surgeries, painkillers, anything along those lines, there are so many athletes that end up facing addiction where it started with a surgery, with an injury, A lot of times it's an injury that they don't want to tell their coaches about because it ends up that they're going to miss playing time. My own daughter with her own concussion, her first concussion, she didn't say anything for 2 days until she finally was like woozy and it was not able to be hidden anymore because there was a big game. And, that's the kind of stuff. There's so many layers that lead to substance use disorder. It's not always pressure at a party. That's what's easy to talk about because it's the scenario that we envision. But there's so many other pathways that lead to misusing a substance and then changing that body chemistry, changing that brain process, altering that reward system. So your body needs it. And now you're facing addiction instead of just experimentation. And just like those parents, if they would have just known
Mm-hmm.
when we're able to identify the presence of the chemical in their body instead of waiting until we can see the presence of a behavioral change, then we can fix it. We can catch it before we have altered the body and brain chemistry. And that's a whole nother ballgame.
And when you think about like what you started to say in the beginning about, that all the pilots are tested and, all the other different groups that are tested, and nobody thinks much about that except that you don't want a pilot that's high driving, flying your plane, so
Thank you. Right.
right. So it's almost like sometimes the parents have taken this helicoptering and snow plowing, whatever they call it, with their children and thinking they're protecting them so they don't want to have them drug tested or whatever, when in reality, they're doing just the opposite. They're not protecting them.
Yeah, I think though that's a side effect of the way that drug testing has been used traditionally as opposed to how we use it. And so we use the same vehicle, the drug test, but we use it in a very different way. It's Ozempic for weight loss instead of diabetes. It's a totally different use of it. So, but in the past, those are legitimate concerns because there were people who were kicked off of their teams, who did get stigmatized, who had permanent damage to their reputation based on the fact that they got high one weekend. And it wasn't redemptive, it wasn't healing, it wasn't holistic. And it just offered, in a lot of cases, especially when there's permanent suspension, things along those lines. Now you've got an angry teenager at home with the parents gone at work. And what do you think they're going to do?
Right.
They've got
Right.
less to lose at this point. So the model in the past has been off. And I think the way parents respond to that is very natural for the way that drug testing has been used in the past. We completely flip it on its head, use it as a way to empower the teenagers. They choose it as a tool to help them deal with that moment of choice, as opposed to the adults forcing it on them and then punishing them if they mess up. It's a positive, helpful vehicle for them.
Well, and it gives them a second chance.
Oh,
If
yeah.
they do
Yes.
mess up, like you said, it's a stigma follows them around. Oh, they did this or they did that. But this gives them an opportunity to rectify and change it. And, that I just think that's really, really amazing. And what does what do you test for? Like opioids, obviously, probably. And
Yes.
see,
Yeah, so we have a very comprehensive test. Our test itself was designed by a juvenile drug court judge. Let's see, do I have one? I don't have one here in my office. But it's a 12 panel is what it's called. So all of your commonly abused illicit drug categories.
okay.
So opiates, for example, have a lot of different drugs in that drug category. Amphetamines has a lot of different drugs in that drug category. So 12 different drug categories. And then it also has a temperature control strip on it, so we can tell that it is right out of the human body as opposed to being cold if it was in a locker or something like that.
Oh,
When
wow.
the samples, yeah, when the samples go to the lab, there is a test for it to be human. Urine, because a lot of the urine you can buy online is animal urine, and people don't necessarily realize that. So if they're buying clean urine, quote unquote, online, it tests for animal markers. All of the things that you can do to make a drug testing process as high in quality as you can, that's what we do. And it's all guided by, we've got an awesome supplier out of Texas, and he, Public Safety Innovations is the name of his organization. He's a retired police officer, and he advises a lot of the juvenile drug court judges. And then we've got a couple schools that do oral fluid testing where their devices are actually donated by Millennium Health out of San Diego. And those oral fluid tests are still the 12 panels, but then they also have an extra panel for a lot of your anxiety type medications. Those types we often will see that they can be abused as well. So we have that added component on there for the oral fluid tests for the ones who manage to get those orals donated by Millennium Health. So I'm a big fan of relying on resources of people who are smarter than me in their realms, and those two entities are, they're fantastic and advise us. But very high quality testing process. The test cup itself snaps down. It's got a gasket on it, so it won't leak in the mail. You won't have a student being called back down because their test cup leaked, which happens with a lot of the lower quality tests. It's very reliable. The sample goes to the lab. The lab analyzes what's in there. They send the report to the doctor, and then the doctor calls the parent directly if there's a substance. And they say, hey, this is the calling on behalf of Drug Free Clubs of America. We have the sample here. Can you tell me what prescriptions your child is on? And that's the first question. The parent says, oh, they're taking X, Y, and Z. And the doctor says, okay, that's exactly what I see here. Congratulations, your child's drug free. If it's something that is not, they might be taking a prescription, but maybe THC, for example, comes up. And they say, okay, I see those, but then we also identify the presence of THC. And no judgment, no, you're a bad parent, nothing like that. It's just a simple observation that this substance is present in the urine. And you, as a parent, can decide from there what you would like to do with that information. We are not passing a judgment on you or your child at all. And then here at Drug Free Clubs at our home office, we have a school counselor on staff. She's got 34 years of experience, just retired 2 years ago. And she calls the students and the parents to follow up. How you're doing? Is there anything you have questions about? How did your conversations go? And then we will retest that student to get back into the program. All we do is feed the student's name onto the next list of randoms. So the school has no idea that this person did not pass their test. It just looks like a random. And then we call the parent and say, hey, we had our retest today. Congratulations, your child tested free of any substances. They are back in the program. So we're able to identify that moment where it's a threat to their brain health, to their physical health, and get them back on track before it becomes something like this young man that you were speaking of, where it's just so much more difficult. If only we knew.
Exactly. And then the other part to it is that I find fascinating is that some of these clubs that you want the schools to embrace, they will balk at because they have to find a teacher or a counselor or somebody that wants to take on an additional thing. And I know and I'm just bringing this up, like Hope Squad or whatever, then they have to have activities and meetings and, so it's time consuming. But this doesn't really sound like that. I'm sure you still have to have a contact person, but it is to coordinate the day that they do this. And then you also do come in and do some random testing, right? So I guess that would be part of it, but they're not like doing, lesson plans or anything.
No, and they can add on. I mean, there's nothing rigid about what we send. We send ideas so they don't have to do that brainstorming every month. It's like coming up every day with what's for dinner. Who wants to do that? You know?
Yeah.
So every month they don't want to come up with it any more than we want to come up with our recipes for the night. So we send them that information through our collaboration with SAD, but they also can add on whatever they want. But I will say this, we do have clubs where the main contact person is not a school person, but they have to be somebody who is close with the school. It can be a maybe a mental health service that they contract with. It could be a coalition, for example, if the coalition has or wants a presence in the school and they're willing to have a contact person at the school for something like scheduling the drug test dates. It is not the gold standard is that there is a person from the school that does it. But that's not always possible because our teachers and our counselors are stretched
Right.
so thin. And this is too serious of a topic to not offer it if there's somebody who's close to the school in the community who's willing to just come in and meet with the student leaders, design what the school year is going to look like, and then help facilitate that, execute the plan throughout the year. So as long as the school is on board, maybe the principal meets with that coordinator once a quarter to approve activities, things like that, it is not a heavy lift. And like I said, we've got everything. We've been doing this for 20 years. So we've got everything spelled out step by step, how to run your meeting start to finish. If you choose to follow that, it's there for you. If you want to tweak it and make it your own, that's there too. And the best is when the student ambassadors say, okay, this is how we want to do it. You start to see them get so excited about being recognized because the majority of them are not using. It
Right.
doesn't seem like that. Media does not want us to think that. They think everybody's using. The majority are not using.
Right.
But you can't see that unless you have a program like this that proves it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's just word of mouth.
Absolutely. And I know that you have a big, or you have had over the years, a big get together of your drug free club people. I think it's in Chillicothe. Is that right? Was it?
It is.
It
That
is.
was actually designed by that branch. I can't take credit for that. There's a retired, now she's retired police officer, Sandy Murray, in that area who had the idea, and it has grown like crazy. So in that area, they had 8 schools that all launched drug free clubs at the same time. They did it as a community effort as opposed to a one school effort. And that gave then not only do the members have something in common with other members of their school, they also have this in common with other schools. So they had reciprocal, maybe I get into all of your football games for free and things like that. So it was a wonderful community effort. And then they thought, why don't we have a rally and get all of the members together at one time? And that's what they did. So they get together every year in October. And if there's any schools that want to come see this, just reach out to us, let us know, reach out to Step Up and let you know, and we can facilitate that. So the schools all get together in October. They meet at the park and their bands are there. They're drumming, they're marching to the same cadence, they're playing music, and they march down the street to the courthouse. It's only teenagers talking to teenagers. No adults speak except for our one MC who keeps things rolling along. But all the teenagers from the different schools, the ambassadors all do different things, whatever they choose to do. They might give a testimonial of what they've experienced with addiction in their own family or within themselves. Sometimes it's a fun cheer, sometimes it's a chant, sometimes it's like, hold up the sign and repeat after me type situation. It's just always something new to see. Last year, I think they had these big volleyballs. They were playing this huge volleyball game, and there are thousands of students there. This isn't just a few. So if you're free, Denise, in October, it would be awesome for you to come see it. It's so moving because you can see that they're there because they want to be, not because it's a day out of school, not because their parents made them, not because they're trying to get service hours.
Right.
They're having a great time. And then they go back to the park There's local business owners there who are feeding them lunch. There's military there. The soldiers will be there, like giving them hot dogs, grilling hot dogs, things like that. They have line dancing. They've got a DJ playing. They've got cornhole. They've got all kinds of stuff. So it's just a really great time. And it was the brainchild of Sandy Murray, but she gave it sort of to the teenagers to say, hey, what do you guys think this could look like? And then it evolved from there. So
It's so important.
it's such an inspiration.
It is. Well, I'm sure it is. And Chillicothe has had their own, they've had difficult times. My husband's family's from there. So we're pretty,
Okay.
we go there a lot. Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
but I know that they have struggled too, like everywhere, but with some of the substances. So this is really great. I mean, I'm so impressed with the whole club, the program, everything. I just wish every school could embrace it. And it's almost like you want to say, why not? Why not?
I know.
Why not? Why would you not do this? It just is, it's amazing to me that anybody would just look at it and go, okay, this is a dumb idea. It's a great idea. It gives the, and just with this celebration thing too, it gives the teenagers a voice. They're able to say what they think and, plan things. That part's fine too. But, just like you said, my dad was a functioning alcoholic and a wonderful person, but he came back from World War II with PTSD, and it was horrible for him. But we never could talk about it. No one could ever talk about it in our family or anywhere else. And how sad. And for some of these kids that are growing up in that kind of situation, don't want to choose that, like I didn't. You don't want to go that route, but you have no one to talk to about it. I don't know. I think this is giving them a voice.
Yeah, not only that, but it's also, if this exists in your local school, think about it this way. If you are a veteran who is a business owner, who is a Rotarian, who is involved in your community, and you probably, if you don't struggle with these issues yourself, you probably have fellow soldiers that you fought with, or airmen, whatever it is, where your friends and family struggle with these issues. And now this gets introduced into your community. The school comes at it from the approach of saying, we're so proud of these students. Would you, business owner, be willing to just give them some kind of a reward when they come to your business? Give them an appetizer when they show their ID card and tell them you're proud of them. So it really is this mantra of hope and productivity on this topic, as opposed to everybody reading the news, wringing their hands and saying, what can we do? What can we do? The problem feels so big.
Right.
Well, as soon as you start to see this membership grow from one person who wants to bring it to the school, to student ambassadors who design it, to the members who join, to the businesses who reward them, and it becomes this common thing throughout the community where everybody's unified in this support system for these students, then it's not what can we do, it's, oh, I'm so glad we're doing this, because they're not, and I don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
It just is a way to respond without just feeling defeated about the topic.
I just think it's amazing, Angie. I think the whole thing, I think the work that you have done, and with your dad and Kyle starting this, I mean, it's brilliant, in my opinion. It's just brilliant.
I love it. Every day I love it.
I bet you do. And I just love that you were able to share this with my audience today, and that we will be able to like push this. Now, if they want to get more involved right away, they would go to your website. Is that?
Certainly. Yes. So there is a contact us page or tab on our website, drugfreeclubs.com.
Okay.
Any of our social media, all of our social media is at Drug Free Clubs, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the whole thing, or sorry, X. The whole thing.
Yeah.
So everything is Drug Free Clubs. But yes, our website, drugfreeclubs.com, there's a contact us thing there. And when that is filled out, it's really interesting based on this conversation as we're ending this, because that form is actually emailed to the gentleman, Dave Huggins, who started Drug Free Clubs in Ross County, where we were just talking. He started as a volunteer from Rotary. brought drug-free clubs to all 8 of their local schools, volunteered for 2 years before I was finally able to hire him, and now he's a program specialist. So those inquiry forms go right to Dave Huggins. He can answer any questions anybody has about bringing the program to their community. He's an awesome resource. And then that's in Chillicothe. Here in our area, we have Julie Martini, who is the school counselor. She knows all about what works in schools and can help that get off the ground too.
It's just so awesome. It's just great. I'm so appreciative to have you on today. And I know we've talked and prior to this, and I'm so happy. So I wanted to make sure that they know, and we'll put on the YouTube channel when this goes up, probably in a few days, actually, we'll put the website up and that type of information. And so that people can get to you and get to Dave or, or Julie or whatever, whoever they need to get to find out more about this. But I sure appreciate you being on today and explaining this, because to be truthful, even though I had dug into it a little bit, I had not really understood all of it until you and I met and talked about it. So
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot, and you don't understand it. So now I do. I really do, and I'm thrilled about it. So, well, thank you again
Well,
for
thank
being
you.
on today, Angie. And I love your social media posts. Anybody that doesn't follow you's a nut.
Thanks.
They are. Your LinkedIn, all of it is awesome. So you do great work.
Appreciate that. Thank
Great
you.
work.
I'll give you your paycheck afterwards.
Oh, funny. Yeah. I am the total volunteer. So yeah, no. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie, for sharing this amazing work that you're doing in our schools for our children. We know how much this is needed and hope more schools are paying attention and will reach out to you. The website, like we said, is for Drug-Free Clubs of America is www.dfca.org. Thank you for listening. You can see these podcasts on YouTube, social media, including Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. You can also access them on our website, which is www.stepupanderson.org, and listen on Spotify. Please share and, most importantly, subscribe to our channel so that we can reach more parents to save our children. Thank you.